Welcome to another episode of the Contractor Business Builder podcast. Today we've got the honor of hosting Wes Towers. So, what if the reason most contractors struggle to win better jobs is not their reputation, but the fact that their website and messaging do not build trust fast enough? So, Wes is the founder of Uplift 360. How are you doing today, Wes?
Really well, thanks, Derek. And it's good to connect from the other side of the planet here in Australia. So
Yeah.
it's my morning, your afternoon. So great to speak to you.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it. Being a day ahead, I feel like you always got something from the future to tell us about, and we'll
Yeah,
we'll get into the websites and what's kind of new and exciting, and then what's also stayed the same. I find there's so much technology and stuff's moving so fast now, but there is still a lot of fundamentals to get right, and
yeah.
it's not that you have to scrap everything old. Usually, it's just you have to modify a little bit of what you're doing. So can you give us your backstory of kind of how you got started in web design and marketing for contractors?
Yeah, that's right. So I started the business over 20 years ago now, having firstly studying graphic design multimedia back in the 90s. That websites weren't really a thing when I was selecting my career path. But after uni, landed myself in a marketing company and they'd never designed a website. So this is how far things have come. They were an award-winning Sydney company. But we had one computer with a dial-up modem, and we used to share the email address. Someone would go over to that computer and shout out, "Hey, you've got a message," that sort of thing. So things have changed rapidly, but they won a website design project, and they said, "Right, you're the young guy, better figure out how to build that site." So I did, and I loved it. I loved the technical and the creative and the marketing and all these moving parts. It felt like bringing it all together. And things have changed wildly since those early days. So that was the year 2000. But yeah, when I started my own business, I was keen to build websites and really fell into the niche of trades and construction by accident. People sometimes assume I'm some sort of trade, had some sort of trade background. I didn't at all. I'm useless at swinging a hammer and don't know what the end of the screwdriver to use it, all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty useless, but for whatever reason, I related really well to these founder-led businesses. So
Mhm.
I understood my world, but I understood how to relate that to them and to get the best outcomes. And so we were achieving the best outcomes for trades, construction businesses. So I thought, hey man, the niche has found me, should double down on this. And it's been a really exciting journey through the years. As I said, over 20 years now, the business has been operating, doing what we do.
Yeah, wonderful. It is a much needed service in the building world. Technical background as far as how to build houses, but yeah, when it comes to technology, most contractors would rather not, get their hands dirty, if you will, on the digital side, and
Yeah,
that's where you step in. Now, the builders, I feel like their businesses are built around reputation and trust. If you ask a lot of
yeah.
them, they'll say referrals are best marketing. But obviously, even with referrals, you still need to have a good looking brand and you still need to build trust online. So how do you approach helping a company be highly trustworthy and fit the part online to coincide with their, offline reputation?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important, and to get the foundations in your business right in the first instance, I would always say we can amplify a message if you've got a quality reputation, we can amplify that, but it's incredibly difficult to market. You can't market your way out of a bad business, you know. So people are talking. There's word of mouth, whether you know it or not. People are talking about your business, and particularly when someone's making a significant investment, you know, we're talking about people building their dream homes or renovating their homes. It's highly personal. It's highly, you know, these are really big decisions for the end customer. So they will talk to everybody they know about who the best providers are for the particular, you know, it might be trade or the full build. So yeah, that's what I would always say to that. And but there's also certainly ways you can let yourself down. So what will typically happen is people will go out and talk to a bunch of their friends to know or go on social media and ask, hey, who do you know who does XYZ in our region? Because obviously it's geographically bound. And so people will suggest companies, but then they'll Google them. They'll find out everything they can before making a buying decision. As I said, it's a big decision. So
Mhm.
you don't want to fall down on the point where your website just looks horrible. It doesn't give the right impression. They'll
Yep.
assume to a large degree, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if your website is sloppy, there's going to be a perception that potentially you'll be sloppy in the building process. So you really need it sharp, polished to match exactly who you want to be be known for, what you want to be known for in the industry, so it can support you and have all the right signals in there. So building trust, because it is such a trust-based industry, and trust is getting eroded all the time because we can't believe what we read, we can't believe what we see. You know, you see videos that look really realistic, so we don't necessarily trust the marketing message. But if it goes and supports what other people are saying on the ground, you know, you've got a referral, someone's recommended you, and then they're getting a message that supports that, that's building trust. And it's building layers of trust as you go. So I think it's
Mhm.
really important to think about the whole blend of what's being said about your brand.
Yeah, for sure. And the website really is like your hub online. It's your
Mm,
storefront, kind of the one-stop shop where people are going to find you. Yeah, maybe they see you on social media or wherever else, but
yeah,
ultimately they're making a decision on you. And even if you've been referred or they've met you, they need to be in alignment. Just because you have a super
yeah,
sharp website, if it's not really aligned with the client or your brand or the way your company messaging works, there can be a disconnect, and that even in the background of someone's mind can cause, dissonance and decrease trust potentially. So when you have a client that comes to you or a contractor who knows their websites, was 5 years old or not as good as it could be, what are kind of some of the first things that you look at and pick out where it's like, yeah, this is something's off. It's probably costing you leads, or you're not building the trust that you should. What specifically do you look for?
yeah. There's a few key things that we see right away, oftentimes, that people learn to expect things in a certain place in a website, and people are really rushed. So the structure in the site is really important to have things where people will expect them. So the brand, and it creates a user experience that people are familiar with, so they can easily navigate around your site and find what it is they're looking for. For example, the logo would probably be in the header on the left. You'd have the menu along the top. Even the positioning of items within that menu, say the contact page, for example, is a good example. It should be the last item, simply because people have learned that's where it sits most of the time. And if someone's jumping on your website and really they just want to get your address or your contact details, they'll know that's where it sits. So you don't want to
Mhm.
create any resistance, because people are so rushed and our attention spans are rapidly diminishing, it feels like. So, you don't want to create any confusion. A simple, clean, sophisticated website with everything in the right places. A call to action would be on the right side in the header there. And then that hero section, so that big section on your homepage, that's what's viewed more than anything else. So really strong, compelling message, and a call to action of some description. So request a quote, whatever it is, book now. Depends on the nature of the business, but whatever you want that next step to be, that's the prime real estate, and it needs to be really solid. But yeah, there's oftentimes we'll take on websites. There was a new project we just launched last week, and we were working with the marketing manager within the organization. But above him, the directors were wanting lots of animation in the site, and we can certainly do that. It looks impressive, and it has that wow factor. But from a marketing conversion standpoint, it causes more harm than good, because, as you can imagine, you're jumping on a website, you're trying to find out about the company and the information, and if they're going to build a quality house, or in this instance, they were commercial buildings, and to have the logo moving around and all that. I mean, it's good for us because it's exciting and fun to work on, but it's terrible from a
Mhm.
marketing standpoint. So having those discussions with the marketing manager so he could take that and convey that to the directors, and so they can make an informed decision. In the outcome, we created a balance. So there was a little bit of animation, but not so much that it would cause any user experience frustrations.
Mhm.
So these sorts of things, you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. It's like anything. You need guidance from people who have understanding of what works. And because we're so niched, we know what works in our industries. So those little things are really important, just the basics. I think that's why I've done so well with the trades and construction. I'm just have a really practical, pragmatic discussion with these people. And so they get it. I'd really try to avoid technical jargon and all that as much as I can. That's
Yep.
just annoying and frustrating for the end customers.
Yeah, I could kind of attribute it to a house where there's these, fancy things that an architect might come up with that look really cool, but as a builder, structurally it's going to cause issues down the road or may not have the effect, or not all the sides have been considered. I know I've been on, I would say many, but there are those sites you get on where you can tell it's very much produced for the aesthetics, and little buttons and things are moving around. And as you scroll, stuff's happening and it's kind of interactive. But at the end of the day, it's just a little bit confusing and overwhelming. And you kind of don't want to stay on the page very long because it's just it's too much, right? So there's definitely a
Yeah.
balance that's needed there.
Yeah. And with that, the volume built house, let's say, they iron out the little issues, that you haven't considered until you built it and you realize, hey, it would have been better if something was adjusted slightly. So they iron that out for the next one. But when it's custom design and they're creating something brand new, there's always the potential for things just to be not foreseen. I had some friends build a really lovely house, and it's in the architectural awards down in Tasmania, so a state in
Yeah.
Australia. But there's just a couple of little things that they would have done completely differently, and because there's so much, their custom designers would appreciate this. There's just so many things to consider in a custom design that you don't really know exactly until it's built out. And it's kind of the same with websites. So we follow a formula and a structure that we know works, and then within those frameworks, we know that works, and then we apply the brand so it's 100% theirs.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So you mentioned call to actions earlier, and typically that's going to go to the contact page or a form to fill out to get in touch.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about the form. I know some builders, they'll pretty much have a name and a message box, and that's about it. And then
Yeah.
others will have any number of additional information like size of the project, budget,
Mm.
locations, on and so forth. What do you have a preferred amount of collection, or would you dial that up or down depending on the amount of leads that are coming through? What do you like to see as far as like the contact
Yeah.
type?
So there's different ways to think about it. So if you're not getting enough inquiries, leads through the form, there's probably too many fields. So we're humans are busy, and so therefore we're a little bit lazy with these things. So if we see a big overwhelming form, we likely won't fill it in. Now that's not necessarily bad. If your intention is for people to phone more so than fill in a form, that's fine. But make an informed decision when you go about that. So if you're getting lots of leads and they're not qualified well enough, and that's frustrating as well. So it's getting that balance right. There's some little tricks you can do to get a longer form filled in more often than not. And that's to create a multi-step form. So you're asking for a chunk of information and then they go to the next set of questions. It just helps the human mind feel like, there's not too much here to deal with. And
Hmm.
the other thing too, sometimes a form might scare people away if they just don't understand what they need to fill in. So they might not know their lot size, for example, or they may, if you're asking for things, technical information that they don't understand,
Hmm.
people don't want to feel silly. So they won't fill in a form at all if it makes them feel silly. So it depends on the nature of business. If it's a business to business scenario where you're a subcontractor working for builders, well, then yes, you can ask for the really specific and technical information. But if you're going straight to the mum and dad home owner, then you don't want to scare them away with technical stuff. So yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act. Sometimes we had some great success actually with a window company who was getting no inquiries at all, not by phone, not by
Oh no.
form. Yeah, yeah. We took them on, and I just recreated a new form on their website with just name, phone number, email, and a message box. And
Hmm.
the leads immediately started flowing through. It was
Interesting.
remarkable. Yeah, yeah. So it's about getting the balance right for the certain business. It'll be different. So if you want to get less leads but more qualified, add some fields. If you're not getting enough leads at all, strip some form fields out.
Yeah, great. Great advice. Thanks for breaking that down. Now, having the website's one thing, having it operating good is another thing. How do you actually get people to your website is the million dollar question a lot of the time. And you hear it a lot as
Yeah.
far as like SEO, organic. That's obviously the ideal way that people find you is they search you and they find you without having to spend on ads and stuff like that. What are some of the maybe key components, or how do you approach SEO effectively for your clients?
Yeah. It's changing a lot over the years. It's always changed a lot. Search engine optimization. We're calling it search everywhere optimization because it's not just Google and search engines anymore, but it's large
Yep.
language models. And the key thing with all of these tools, it doesn't matter what it is, it's trying to give the very best information for the specific need that someone's searching for or asking their chat GPT about. So it's about having that quality information and substantial information that these platforms will glean the information from and recommend you as the authority in the space you play in. So thinking about the content in the site is really important. And so typically for your main pages, the sales-based pages or within your website, you want them clear, concise, compelling, so people know how to take the next step to take action and the call to action. That's the primary purpose for your main pages, but then you've got ways in which you can build in substantial content so Google can recognize it and large language models can understand it. And so that oftentimes will apply a blog or news section to the site, and that gives us an opportunity to touch on lots of different pieces of content that can be flagged and get recognized in the SEO world. So that's the way we kind of do it. It's about getting that balance right of what is this page? What's the purpose of this page? Is it the sales page or is it the content driven to attract humans, but also to attract all the various tools? So yeah, that balance is fun. It's kind of funny. A lot of people talk about Google not being as effective as it once was, and to a degree that's true. But we've found most of our clients, whilst their traffic might have diminished somewhat, the amount of leads they get through the website has not. So what that means to me is people are doing their research in other ways. So they're having a chat to their chat GPT or whatever AI they use for general research and information. So there's less need to visit a website for that information. But when
Mhm.
they want to buy something, they're still visiting the website. And certainly for our clientele, because as I said before, it's not an impulse buy. They're not just buying something like they might on, Temu or something like that. It's nothing like that at all. They're going to want to talk to a real human, and going to visit your website, and they're going to find out as much as they can before they part ways with this significant investment.
Yeah, for sure. It's really becoming more and more, multifaceted and more of an ecosystem, I think, for the search
Yeah,
everywhere, as you mentioned. So you want to have similar information and content across multiple platforms and have it kind of linked with your website and different things like that.
yeah.
Now, this is kind of a personal question of my own of like, how important is it to have location names in your like headers or content? Like if you're from a specific neighborhood or city for search engine optimization, is that still relevant with Google just being as knowledgeable as it is typically about companies and locations, or
Yeah.
what kind of specific words would you want to have on a page for a builder?
Yeah, definitely you want to talk about the locations you're serving. So, I mean, if you have the easy ways to introduce that is if you have a case studies page, let's say, you should definitely mention the location in, the suburb or the town or whatever it is. So you're just naturally saying the locations all the time. Now, Google do understand where you are. You'll probably have a Google business profile. That's important. Back in the day, you needed to have all the keywords in the right places for almost to trick your way to the top in search engines, but it's far more sophisticated than that. So think about the content. Firstly, that it's useful for the end user, the humans, but secondary to that, think about, using some phrases that you want to rank for. So the location, you would use them in natural places. It doesn't need to be in the heading anymore. And there was all sorts of little tricks that people used to do to try and to do that. But to just think about it, is it useful for the end user to say, I'm in just outside of Melbourne. So if I said Project XYZ, location Melbourne, that would be helpful. So that's the way of thinking about it. So yeah, definitely for trades and construction, obviously they're for the most part geographically bound. We work with a lot of building materials companies as well, so they might be
Mhm.
national in their industries. So, but for the most part, location really does matter as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. As far as like mistakes that you see builders making with their website, is there anything that you kind of see over and over again, or that are kind of glaringly obvious when you take a look that this needs to be changed or fixed?
Yeah, well, I think For the most part, they're often sitting on a gold mine, but they just haven't leveraged the information that they have at their fingertips simply because it's not front of mind. So, especially if you're a founder-led business or you're still out at the tool on the tools, you're not thinking about marketing all the time. But if you can set up ways in which every project, or maybe not every project, but all the significant projects somehow find their way into your website. That's the easiest way to build out content, but to
Mhm.
showcase hopefully the quality work that you're providing. So, I mean, I've got a client who's applying it really well right now. So whilst he is driving from project to project, he will talk to his ChatGPT about what
Mhm.
he's just done, what he's seen, and some interesting highlights. And then at the end of the day, he'll just email me these snapshots of what's been going on, and we can rework that into blog posts. So, I mean,
Mhm.
he could do the blog posts himself, but he's time poor and he'd like us to cast our eye over it and make sure it's all search
Mhm.
engine friendly and all that kind of stuff. But to build out little systems where it becomes a habit, where you can make sure these quality projects you're working on are seen and visible and building the authority and trust in the industry. So,
Mhm.
oftentimes they'll bring on a client and they just have nothing much in their site of significance. But once you start talking, just the other probably a month ago now, we launched a site for a Sydney company, and I didn't realize. I just thought they were small time player in their field. But
Mhm.
then they started talking about the buildings they work on, and they're recognized, possibly globally recognized buildings that they've worked on, and they haven't told anybody. It's not on their website, it's not on their socials. And you are sitting on a gold mine and you just have
Yeah.
to open that up.
Mhm.
I just need to get that information out of you and get it on the website. And it's as simple as that oftentimes. Just thinking about how you can make it easy for yourself to get that information published so people know what you're up to and they can say,
Mhm.
hey, that's a project we really love. We want to do something similar. And away you go.
Yeah, I love the way you articulated that. And so many builders do great work, proud of the projects they do, but humble and typically don't like, necessarily the limelight. And
Yeah.
but you have all these, amazing projects. People are interested in knowing about them. And having, as you mentioned, we're all about systems and processes. So it's not that you need to make the content or write the blog articles or touch up the photos or whatever. Typically, you just need kind of the raw materials, if you will, of what's
Yeah.
happening, certain topics, sending photos from finished product projects or ongoing projects, and then having somebody who can work with that and be, putting out that content regularly, whether that's through social media or in this case, more of a polished format for the website is fantastic, and it just ties into that whole ecosystem as before. Now,
Yeah.
for builders who have maybe done their marketing internally, maybe they hired somebody to do some web design for them at some point to get their website up, but now they want to hire, an actual marketing company or web developer to kind of get it to that next level. How do you suggest they approach that, and what should they look for?
They should hire me.
Yeah,
That's as
of
simple as
course.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's so difficult these days to know who a quality provider is and who isn't. And so you see kind of companies pop up, who provide this kind of stuff all the time. They come and go all the time. So, I mean, in my view, and I suppose because it's the way we've built our business is to hire somebody who understands your industry to some degree, because there'll always be nuance in what works for a certain type of customer and client. So if they already have seen a bunch of companies similar to yours, then there's chances are they can shortcut to some success a little bit quicker. There might be some levers that they can pull pretty fast to get an outcome because they've seen it before. They've tried stuff and it didn't work, and they've tried stuff that did work. So
Mhm.
that's better not to have to go through that trial and error scenario, yourself if you don't have to. So that's probably the main thing. And you don't know what you don't know. It's like anything, you don't know what you don't know. So, I mean, hiring someone just because you've seen a website that you kind of like the look and feel of, you might see a site and go, okay, well, we want something similar to that. Realistically, it shouldn't be just about the look and feel and what you like, because you are not your customer. So, just like I said before, the directors of the company who wanted all that animation, they didn't realize the negative impact of doing what they were requesting. So you don't know what you don't know. Get some expert advice and guidance, because otherwise it can be a really expensive exercise that yields no fruit.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, what you touched on specifically, having a track record like yourself, 20 years, there's a lot of flash in the pan kind of, people out there, I think, and maybe some will stick around, but if they're kind of new to this game, there's a little bit of a red flag there. And then specific to the industry, 100%. I've had clients with, both sides of that where they've hired a marketer specifically with builders and then ones that are just more generic. And
Yeah.
it's very rare that just a generalized marketing company is going to get great results for a builder.
Yeah.
You're much better going with someone who specifically works with them because you've seen the ins and outs, you know what works, what doesn't work, you know the types of people and types of businesses that get run, and it's just the process and the results are just going to be so much better. And then what you mentioned with your marketing needs to be focused on your customer, your client. And it seems like such a no-brainer kind of thing, but we often forget that. I know myself when I named my first company, was totally thinking about like, oh, I want my company to sound, big and strong and like, amazing and whatever, but not realizing that my client doesn't care about that. They want something that's like trustworthy and friendly and local, right? Like
Right.
there's kind of two sides to it. So keeping in mind that just because you like something or like the way something looks doesn't mean it's going to be effective, and it may not be the way your customers, you know, feel about whatever. So great
Yeah.
points.
Yeah. We just get too close to our own thing sometimes as well. So we don't know, we can't see things from, with a clear, without a lens. We're always going to see things with a lens on. So that's why I think it's incredibly important, no matter what field of expertise you're bringing in, but to get that external advice, even if you're an expert, as people always say, like the leading sports people in their field, they might be the very best at their given sport, but they still have a coach. So they still have external third parties speaking into what they need to do because you just can't see your own flaws and opportunities for potential improvements.
Yeah, great analogy there. Like you would never imagine a professional athlete without a lot of guidance, coaching, medical help and staff and nutrition. And like there's
Yeah.
so much that goes into making them an elite athlete. So if you want a really high performing business, you're gonna need these people around you that are specific and knowledgeable in their aspect to guide and help your business as you grow it.
Yeah.
Now, Wes, for those people that want to get a better website, get better
Yeah.
marketing, make more money, get more clients. What's the best way for them to connect with you and uplift the 360?
Yeah, uplift360.com.au. Being an Australian, the AU is for the Australian website. You'll see if you jump on the homepage, there's a bunch of clients all around the globe as well. So some companies probably people will recognize in there. So yeah, happy to jump on a strategy call. There's a big button on the homepage of the website where you can book a call with me. It's a free call. Have an initial conversation, maybe around some of the topics we talked about today, and see how we might be able to help them.
Wonderful. So yeah, we'll put links to the website in the description of this, audio video wherever you're checking it out from, and reach out to Wes, connect with him on a call. No reason to have a sloppy or ineffective website. So
Yeah,
get something brand new and working for you. Thanks so much for coming on here, Wes, and sharing all your insights and wisdom.
my pleasure. Thanks, Derek.